Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jordan Drew, the Sports Crew, Drew's College Athlete Spotlight. We're on episode 8 here. We're going to stick in Division 1, and we got on yet another swimmer here. We got Parker Sonnabend on from the University of South Dakota. And Parker, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And yeah, you continue our long string of brilliant guests we've had on recently. We've had Robert Shimmick on, of course, talking some basketball. We had Elise Fisher on to talk some Milwaukee basketball with me too, and now we got Parker on. So, just want to talk about the hype behind this episode, Parker. I don't know if you heard last Thursday's episode, the EWC midseason recap. I announced that you were coming on, and I gotta play for you Robert Shimmick's reaction. You got to hear this.
Oh boy,
those will be coming your way. Also, Parker Sonnabend, brilliant alumni, is coming on next Wednesday. So that'll be a great one, Robert. I know you're excited. So that'll be a fun interview.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You might hear some stories.
I'm excited, and I'm going to be asking for some stories. So you hear that? Were you able to catch that audio? Was it loud enough?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, more stories to come. Robert's excited, so we'll give him what he wants.
Yeah, well, you bet we are. And with that, let's get right into it. So, Parker, when did you start swimming?
So when I started swimming, this is also a funny story. I was actually, I was a wrestler, kind of played basketball, played football, baseball, lost a match, lost my cool at Balders, threw my headgear up in the stands, and my dad took me off the mat and said, I think we're done wrestling here. So he put me in swimming the very next week at our Brilliant Blue Dolphins program. So I started that around, I want to say like 7 or 8. I think I started it. And that wasn't competitive. That was just kind of splash around for the day. And then when I started competitively swimming, that would probably be at the Manitowoc Y, probably when I was like 8 or 9. So that's when I started competitively swimming.
Perfect. And with that, then, yeah, you mentioned some of those sports that you were involved in high school. Was there one that was number 2 to swimming? I'm going to guess swimming was the favorite, or?
So here's the thing for me. Swimming's actually probably one of my least favorite sports.
Oh,
it's just one of the ones that I happen to be good at, or the best at. It's just really it's a grind every day. So I think for me, being able to play football and play baseball with my buddies and do all that kind of stuff, it was just so much relaxing. Nothing beats Friday Night Lights for football for me. My dad was a football coach for a while, and then baseball was just chew on some seeds and kind of hit some balls, take some infield. So that was fun too. So swimming was kind of my least favorite, but it was good because I was good at it. So that made it worthwhile in the end.
Completely. Yeah, it makes sense. And you're right. Nothing beats Friday Night Lights or, just playing some baseball with the buddies, of course. But
Yep.
So, talking some high school swimming here, was there a club you were also involved in, or did you do a lot of club swimming?
I did. Until I got to high school, just because when you're a 3-sport athlete, you don't really have time for club to swim all year round, like most of your competition. So that was another hard struggle, was always trying to find a way to get faster, because guys are swimming, 9 to 12 months out of the year, and I'm swimming 2.5 to 3. So I started, like I said, I started at the Manitowoc Y when I was younger. Then I moved to Fox Cities when I was probably around 10, 11. And then all the way through, I swam with the Fox Valley Wave over in Appleton and Neenah, probably when I was 12 on, but then kind of stopped that until more summer, because I didn't have much time with the other sports. But that was a club team I was mostly on.
Good stuff. And then, with that, was there a favorite pool or a pool that stood out to you?
I would say that I swam in the last year of the old Wisconsin Natatorium that they had stayed in before COVID and everything, and then they had to switch it to Waukesha North. So I think that was just a legendary pool in my opinion. Probably one of my favorites. And then my other one would probably be down in Pleasant Prairie, called the Recplex. That was a really big facility that we swam club stayed at. That was probably those 2 pools were definitely had some good memories there.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either. I mean, if you go to somewhere that holds state, of course, but let's talk the high school team now, because you were a part of a co-op, and we kind of talked with Gracie Streblo about it. You want to kind of talk about Was it just BVC for you, or was it BVCK? Were you part of the
It was BVC for the men's team, and that was kind of for a purpose. So the girls were already in D1 in Division One. So they kind of needed another team to be able to compete more at the Division One level. So on the guys team, we just had Brilliant Valors and Chilton. So it was always our struggle because we were a co-op with, smaller-ish to decent-sized schools for D2. We were like right on the border. It was like us, Cedarburg, Ashwaubenon, and Monona Grove for like the biggest schools in D2. So if we would have added Kaukauna, we would have actually moved to Division One. So it was kind of our goal to try to stick D2 because even if we brought Kaukauna in, I think we only would have had 2 swimmers. So it would have not have made a difference. We would have not have been bringing in like 10 guys. So that's kind of our co-op, and just practice later when everybody gets out of school, practice times. But co-op is really good. You get to meet a lot of people from a lot of different schools, and even you get more insights on how people are in different sports too. So it's good. You kind of get to get your toes wet at other schools.
Yep, of course. And then what was your home pool? Was it Brilliant or Valders? Or not Brilliant, Valders or Chilton? My bad.
It was Chilton. So Valders and Chilton, or Valders and Brilliant, we always had to make the trip over there, 20-25 minutes. So.
Well, and Brilliant not having a pool, right? I mean, you guys don't.
Brilliant has a community center pool,
but yeah,
but nothing of actually a competition pool like Chilton and Valders. So
yeah, Chilton. I know that was the girls' kind of meeting place too, I think. So they both chose Chilton, and that's interesting. I never knew about why Kaukauna never joined. I always wondered why they weren't a part of just like how the girls did it, but that all makes sense to me. So
yeah,
was there in high school then a swimming moment that stood out to you as like number one?
It's hard. I would say for high school strictly, I would say the biggest moment was probably had 2 of them that were equally as high. My junior year, we had me, and then there was 2 seniors from Brilliant, and we had a freshman from Chilton that was on a relay team. And our highest relay I think we ever had placed was probably like 12th or 13th. Like every year we would sneak in and we'd be like 15th, 14th. And I dropped a lot of time, and we had a lot of guys drop time, and we tied at sectionals for sectional champs. So we came in as sectional champs. We were seated 6th, tied for 5th and 6th. We ended up out-touching Cedarburg by 0.1 to take 6th place and get on the podium. So that was a really cool moment to have all those guys be able to get a medal and see them work so hard for that. So I think that was a really cool moment. And then probably my other biggest moment, it was kind of disappointing, but I was a top seed at state in the 100 breast, got out-touched just a little bit on my last 25. But the coolest part that my dad handed out the medals, and he told me the year before, my junior year, that he was, but he never told me my senior year. And actually the announcer knew my dad pretty well. So he made it a pretty cool thing at state, and he mentioned that he was my dad handing out medals, and we had kind of a little teary moment there as it was my last high school race, and we got a pretty cool picture of us embracing. I came down and gave him a hug. So that was probably one of my 2 coolest moments that I had, for sure.
Yeah, that's an awesome moment. I actually have that moment up here on, I Want the News did a great job of covering that with Craig Hoffman. He did a great job, and it's really cool to see. And yeah, you mentioned you're just that one touch, like almost from winning it, but hey, 2nd place, can't go wrong still. And then just being able to share that moment with your dad, that's truly something special. That's why we love sports. That's one of those moments that just stands out. And then, with that, was there ever that like moment? I know we talked about moment, like favorite moment, but was there that moment, that you were like, hey, I can do this at the collegiate level?
So, I mean, you can go back and, Robert will joke about what I looked like when I was a freshman, but I was a little freshman year, sophomore year, I was a little straggly freshman, about 5'2", 110 pounds. So after my freshman year, I kind of got a hard taste of reality of what high school swimming was. Because I was pretty good coming out of club, but then, you get hit pretty hard when you're racing against seniors and you're a freshman. So then after my sophomore year, I showed pretty good growth and improvement, but I still wasn't big and had developed. So I remember my dad and I sat down at the kitchen table and he told me he was going to be coach. And he's like, you want to swim at the next level, like you say you want to do, like work has to start now. So there was a lot of times where I'd pretty much get done with practice from 4:30 to 6:30 or 7. I'd go late. And then I'd get back and have to lift from either any time from 7:30 to 8 till 9 o'clock at night. I would train and lift. Didn't get any schoolwork done. I'd always say during the swim season, I couldn't really get a whole lot of work done. So I really had to use my study halls and get my work done. Other than playing games with Robert and screwing off, just like everybody does. But I mean, it was hard. But after my junior year, that's when I kind of figured out that there was something. But when the boys' state is so late in the year, just for the recruiting process, pretty much all the scholarship money is gone. All the schools kind of have their guys set. So it was really hard to try to convince college coaches when you talk to them to be like, I know what I can go this year yet. You just got to trust me. That was kind of probably my sophomore year and the end of my junior years when I started really get a lot of emails and receive calls about, swimming at the next level, which is nice.
And with that, then, like, what stood out with South Dakota? What stood out?
Well, I was originally going to go to Grand Valley State, and about a week before nationals, Robert and I were big into mascots. I mean, what's cooler than a South Dakota State jackrabbit? Like, there's not a whole lot of cooler mascots than a jackrabbit. So I reached out to South Dakota State and I wanted to go there, especially for the hunting and fishing opportunities as well. And I emailed their head coach, knew I could swim there, even their dive coach, everybody. And I never got an email back, never got a call back. So my dad's like, well, if you can't make it work there, what other schools are there? And we fell upon USD, South Dakota. And I kind of sent them an email and they got back to me right away. And they said, yep, we want you to swim here. Give us a call when you can. And they called me the very next day. And we already had an official visit planned like in the next 2 weeks. So I did that right after my national meet, toured there. And then it was a hard decision between Grand Valley State and USD. But I really liked it out here. The people are my kind of people, like to hunt and fish, got all those opportunities yet. And it's just glad I found this spot. Would have loved to be a jackrabbit in the end, but hey, I'm glad I'm a coyote now. So hey,
you made it there. You made South Dakota. And, is there, looking back at your high school career, is there someone you want to shout out,
I would definitely say, probably would have to say like Bo and Isaac, when I was a junior, those people on my relay team and David, we all kind of really came together and they pushed me. And I'd say the biggest shout out, obviously with the cool moment with my dad, would have to be my dad. Without him hounding me all the time, getting in my ear about what I got to do. Like, if you want to be great, this is what you have to do. That was definitely huge for me. And also, not a lot of people, like you said, know a whole lot about swimming. So it's kind of hard to see like, oh, are you actually good? Or like, it's kind of hard to judge. Just not a very well-known sport. So I think it was hard for me to deal with, like, trying to tell people like, that I'm not too bad. So I think a lot of the support around the community and like just the people that I hung out with, encouraging me was pretty big too. So I definitely like to shout those people out.
Yeah, talking about people you hang out with, is there a favorite Robert Shimmick or Brilliant story you want to share? We'll try to keep it PG if we can, but I'd love to hear it. Anyone that just stands out, any story you got.
I mean, it definitely has to be the whole Hunter, Robert, Gunner, Pack TR story. I mean, it has to be that. I mean, just the 2 weeks leading up to that, Robert and I were on the announcements, and it was like a whole 2-week ordeal. Like, everybody's got to go. I mean, we had 3/4 of the school at a volleyball game in Two Rivers. I mean, Robert was sending out school-wide emails on my computer to people. My grandma printed off about like 50 copies of the infamous picture of All We Do Is Win from TR. So that was oh gosh, we were tailgating. We had hot dogs, and oh my goodness, we had tubs of cookies and chips, and I brought a portable grill. We had speakers. That was that was definitely something. I mean, Robert and I can definitely say that was. I don't think anything will top that. That was something.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the greatest, high school stories you'll ever hear. I mean, tailgating, that's some great stuff, guys. And everyone was talking about it around the EWC that next day.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
that so well.
Yeah.
And that was certainly some legendary stuff you two put on. But now let's transition a little into the college stuff now, more into, now you're at South Dakota, you're a sophomore now even. So we talked about the recruiting process, and was there any other offers you want to talk about that you actually received, or anyone around here, Wisconsin?
I went to UWM. Had an offer there. But just I don't know, the campus didn't gel with it a whole lot. Also, hunting and fishing opportunities were kind of limited. As you probably know.
Yep.
And I actually kind of wanted to go to GB, but then early in my junior year, they cut all their scholarship programs, or most of their scholarship for all their programs. So basically, they're going to try to weed swimming out in the next 4 years. So they're going to try to cut their program. But I did have some preferred walk-ons to Iowa and Minnesota. But obviously, with the expenses there, my family kind of needed some kind of scholarship money to go off of. So I kind of had those, but other than really the Midwest, I could have looked at like Boston University. There's some other East Coast schools I'm trying to think of. I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are obviously very expensive over there. So that was kind of out of my range, and I wanted to stay in the Midwest. So it's kind of where I was at.
Seems like you got a great fit in USD, and
yes.
As we talked about already, you're the sophomore. So your freshman year, going there first time on campus, what were the thoughts? I mean, were you nervous? How are you feeling?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't really look a whole lot of like where everybody was at. Like I know a lot of freshmen coming in, they already know what people swim, they know their times, they know where they're going to place. I kind of prided myself on flying really low under the radar for everybody. I kind of got in there, and I think also doing multi-sports, like when we would have conditioning and lifting, I was really excelling in those areas compared to others. In the pool, I was doing really well, but I never noticed that some people are so good at swimming in season. I'll be honest, I'm not a great in-season swimmer. So at a dual meet, I won't score a whole lot of points for you in a dual. But when it comes conference time, when I'm tapered and ready to go, I can drop a lot of time and get some good places. So I think people finally realized that once conference came, like, oh, he's actually, one of the guys that we need to score well in. So I didn't really focus on, I really started to try to stay within myself. I didn't try to focus on like anybody else, just try to do what I could and make the most friends you can. It's kind of what you got to do as a freshman, I feel like.
Yeah. And we saw your freshman, conference. You mentioned conference. A perfect example here is the men's 200-yard individual medley. You took 7th as a freshman. That's impressive. And University of South Dakota, you guys really dominated, let's say, that event in general. You guys had the guy who took 1st, 2nd, and then, or not 2nd, 3rd, and then just looking through it, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So
yeah,
that's crazy. You guys, in the Summit League is what conference South Dakota is in, and you guys did very well last year in conference.
Very well.
Yeah. Then looking through the roster, a lot of these guys looks like a good chunk of them were returning as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, we have a really big senior class this year. So we'll be losing quite a bit of speed and depth after this year. But yeah, we have a lot of guys returning. So a lot of my events got a ton of guys in them. But which is good. You got to have a lot of depth, especially in a conference meet. You got to try to do the best you can. And like for me last year, the biggest thing was just trying to make A finals and everything. And I was able to make A finals, take top 8 and everything, which is that was huge for me. So I was happy with that, and just try to get the most points for the team as you can, for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly looking good. And we talked about like training. You mentioned like the lifting and stuff, how you were doing that in high school. How has the strength training been in college? Has it been a lot different, compared to the stuff you've been doing in high school, or how was that?
So my dad was a football coach for a lot of years, so I pretty much did like more like building strength lifts. So I would say coming out here, it was kind of nice how I am kind of developing still. I can feel myself still developing more into a swimmer. So we do a lot more swimmer lifts. So it's going to be a lot more range of motion and volume than it is like maximal effort, only doing like 2 to 3 reps. We will hit that sometimes, but mostly, you're doing 5 to 10 reps and like 6, 7 sets of everything. It's front squat, muscle snatch, pull-ups, push-ups. It's a whole bunch of different exercises, but all good for swimmers, range of motion. So I'd say it's definitely more swimmer-based, swimmer-focused. Even the conditioning that you do is definitely more towards getting better at swimming, not just, building strength to build strength and lift.
Yeah, sounds like more of the muscle endurance, which is kind of, I agree with what you would see in swimmers. So that's some cool stuff. And overall, was there any adjustment you felt you had to make from going from the high school level to the college level?
Definitely how you handle your rest, recovery, and getting your schoolwork done. So, obviously, as you know, everybody's college schedule is all different. You got classes at different times, all depending on your major. So really trying to fit, an hour of conditioning or an hour on lift and 2 hours of swim a day, plus getting what you need to get done in the classroom, but still, going to sleep at a decent time, like recovering, hydrating, like, getting treatment if you need treatment for an injury. Like I kind of dislocated my shoulder like one practice, like, and I had to get that popped in and had to do recovery for about 2 weeks. Like that's all a part of it. So I'd say that's kind of like the biggest thing, because in high school, you all have a set routine. You wake up, you go to school with your buddies and everybody, and then you go to practice, you lift, and you're done. Each day is kind of different in what you need to do, especially with the free time you have. So for me, I like to try to get everything done and then have, free time to myself. So that was definitely probably the hardest adjustment, is trying to get everything squared away with how you want.
Yeah, the balance, that's always something tough. For anyone, first year in college but if you're starting to find that balance out, it's great to hear. And
Yes.
Good stuff. And then also just with that, how is your sophomore season been going so far? We saw your freshman season turn out. The end went fantastic. And now how's it been going for year number 2?
Really well. We talked about earlier, haven't had a whole lot of meets yet. We've had a dual and a quad dual, or a tri-dual and a quad dual, and then our mid-season meet. So as it gets closer to conference here, we'll be really wrapping, up the duals here. And so we'll have like one weekend, we'll swim on a Friday and a Saturday, we'll have meets back to back, and we'll have like 2 straight weekends of meets. And then like a week or 2 after that is conference. So it's coming up quick. We'll have a lot of meets coming up. Like I said, I'm not a terribly good dual meet swimmer. But it's good to see that if I do drop times for my in-season best, that means that I'm going to drop time in the end. So I think my sophomore season's going actually really good so far. I had all lifetime bests on a very short taper at my mid-season meet. So I definitely couldn't complain with that. I had really good times and finishes. So I'm excited to see what conference is going to hold with a full taper and being fully rested.
That's some good stuff to hear. I'm looking through the schedule. For South Dakota, you got St. Thomas January 14th and 15th, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota. So you'll be going to Minnesota. And then we got January 21st. You're going to face Omaha at home in the Dakota Dome pool. So that's where Gracie Strevlo is. So that's the Summit League play there. And then also South Dakota State, January 22nd. So now you can beat the Jackrabbits. Yeah. Good.
Very big meet. We got to get a point for USD to win the year again for all the sports.
Good stuff. And then looking through it, like the Coyote Invite in South Dakota, 28th and 29th, and then Summit League Championships already, a 4-day, February 16th to the 19th in North Dakota. So that's I don't know how far of a drive that will be for you guys, but it's the state above. So
yeah, it'll be about 4.5 for us. So not terrible, but can't complain. It's a really, really good pool. Very good pool.
Awesome. And with that, with your teammates, has it the bonding experience? Have they been great?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We've had a lot of good times, a lot of good college memories. Can't complain when you're in a sport because you get to make friends not only in your sport, but definitely all other athletes. So can't complain at all.
100% agree. And, from the Summit League championships, I guess, is there any, if you guys place well in the conference you meet, is there anywhere else you guys go, or is that just the end?
So for us, it'll be after the Summit League champs, we'll have 8 girls and 8 guys go to the National College Invite. That'll be in, I believe, Cleveland at Cleveland State. So we'll go there, and I'm not sure how long that is after conference. I think it's like 2 to 3 weeks after the conference meet. But those 16 swimmers will basically try to retaper again and then swim at that meet. So basically, take the top 8. Doesn't matter what your event is. Pretty much just take the 8 fastest girls and guys. And then I don't think we're going to have anybody go to NCs. But a couple of us are qualified for some TYR Pro Swim Series. So I think depending on the national invite, I'll probably also go to that Pro Swim Series as well.
So you got some bright meets ahead of you guys. So hopefully you guys can make the most of them. And with that roster you guys got right now, I'm sure you guys will. And
yeah, we
got to fit in some academics, of course, because we love to. So what is your major, Parker?
I switched my major last year to physical education with a minor in coaching and sports management. So that's kind of where I'm going with so far.
And with that, do you want to kind of follow your dad's footsteps, or where do you want to go with that?
I think that's kind of the plan. Think just going to be a PE teacher and a coach to start, and then with the sports management, hopefully try to become like an AD.
Yeah.
And then maybe work my way to a principal position. But I don't know. I think if I like AD, I'm going to want to stick with an AD for a while.
And correct me if I'm wrong, your dad is the AD at Chilton. Is he?
He was the AD at Chilton until about 4 years ago. Now he's the assistant principal at the 7th and 8th grade school over in Neenah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he was AD for a while there.
I knew he was an AD. And what I'm thinking right now, Robert Shimmick, AD of Brilliant High School, Parker Sonnabend, AD of another EWC school, maybe. And imagine that.
That would be, that's what we talked a little bit. That's what we might want to do. So we might have some 2 brilliant alums at ADs in the EWC yet.
That would be wild. I just throw that out there. Might not happen, but the potential's there.
It is there.
So that's some good stuff, of course. And I wish you the best of luck academically and athletically, Parker. You got some great things going for you, and just keep them going.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a good interview. So hopefully we gave the people what they wanted.
Oh, you bet we did. It was a lot of fun. And now just going through the schedule, we got Friday, we got Journey to a Million episode 3. And then also, if you guys have not seen yet, we're giving away free hats. So go on the Instagram, go on, the social medias, just do what it tells you to do, enter for the free hat, and you could potentially win one of those free snapback hats. They look great. So I recommend entering if you have not.
Gonna have to do that.
Yeah. We got 3 days of Christmas giveaway, and the first one ended yesterday at 7 p.m. So you got one today, Wednesday, and then we got tomorrow and Friday. There'll be some stuff for the other ones. So make sure to follow that, and also social media. You got to check it out. Twitter at JD Sports Pod, Instagram Jordan Drew _Sports Crew, and then Facebook Jordan Drew the Sports Crew. So with that, thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Jordan and Drew the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.